Hospitals had a special talent for making time cruel. Minutes stretched until they felt like hours. Hours disappeared without warning. The clocks on the walls kept moving, but nothing else did. Not the fear in my chest. Not the pressure behind my eyes. Not Malik. He lay in the bed beside me with half his head bandaged, tubes in his arms, monitors blinking like they had the right to count him for us. The surgery was over. That was what the doctors kept saying. Over did not mean safe. Over did not mean healed. Over did not mean my brother would open his eyes and start telling everybody to calm down, like he had not just scared 15 years off my life. It only meant the surgeons had done what they could. Now we waited. I sat in the chair beside his bed with one hand wrapped around his. His fingers were warm, weak, but warm. I held on to that like it was scripture. "You are being extremely dramatic," I whispered to him. "You know that, right? All this just because you didn't want to admit Darius makes better pancakes." From the other side of the room, Darius lifted his head from where he was folded into a chair too small for his body. His hoodie was wrinkled, his eyes red, his beard rougher than usual. "I heard that." "You were supposed to." "My pancakes are superior." "Your pancakes have corners. That's called innovation." I smiled because if I did not, I would fall apart. Darius saw it anyway. He always did. His face softened. "Asha. Don't." I didn't say anything. "You said it with your eyebrows." "My eyebrows are concerned." "Well, tell them to mind their business." He stood and stretched, wincing as his back cracked. "You need food." "I need Malik to wake up." "You also need food." I had crackers. "Crackers are not food. Crackers are what food eats when food is sick." I squeezed Malik's hand, then let go like it hurt. "I'll get coffee." "That hospital coffee tastes like punishment." "Then I'll get punished awake." Darius watched me too closely. "You sure?" No. I was not sure about anything anymore. Not about Malik. Not about the future. Not about the money sitting in my account like a secret with teeth. And definitely not about the man I had left sleeping in Oregon. "I'll be right back," I said. The ICU hallway was too bright, too clean, too full of quiet emergencies. Nurses moved quickly in soft shoes. Families sat in corners with vending machine snacks and prayers they did not know how to say out loud. I walked to the waiting area on legs that felt borrowed. The vending machine blinked at me. I blinked back. "Do not start with me," I muttered, digging through my bag for crumpled bills. "I have already fought a hospital billing department this week. You are not built for my rage." I fed them $2. The machine swallowed them, hummed, and gave me absolutely nothing. I stared. "Oh, you picked the wrong Georgia woman today." Before I could hit the side of it, a deep voice behind me said, "It stole from you." Every cell in my body stopped. I knew that voice. I had dreamed about that voice. I had cried into a plane window, trying to forget that voice. Slowly I turned. Ronan Blackwood stood in the hospital waiting area, like Atlanta had personally offended him. Black coat, black shirt, broad shoulders, dark hair pushed back from his face, though a few strands had fallen forward, like he had been running his hands through it. His expression was severe enough to make the fluorescent lights look nervous. Silas stood half a step behind him, watchful and silent, wearing the same kind of dark suit men wore when they either protected presidents or buried problems. For one stupid second, all I could think was that Ronan did not belong here. Not under buzzing hospital lights, not beside a plastic plant, not in front of a vending machine offering honey buns and off-brand chips. He belonged in rain and pine trees, in shadowed halls, in a room where firelight touched his face and made him look almost human. My throat closed. Ronan. His eyes moved over me. Not quickly, not coldly, carefully. My messy curls, my wrinkled sweatshirt, the visitor badge clipped crookedly to my chest, the hospital bracelet still around my wrist from when Darius had forced me to get checked after I nearly passed out in pre-op. Something shifted in his face. It was gone before I could name it. "You look exhausted," he said. I laughed once, but it sounded broken. Good to know I'm still inspiring romance. His jaw tightened. Behind me, the vending machine hummed again. Ronan turned his head toward it. The look he gave that machine should have qualified as a threat. "Did you just glare at hospital property?" I asked, because apparently my mouth did not care that my heart was trying to crawl out of my chest. "It took your money." It was $2. The amount is irrelevant. Oh my God. It is theft. Silas looked straight ahead, but I saw his mouth twitch. I hated that I almost smiled. I hated more that Ronan saw it. His gaze softened for half a breath, and then footsteps pounded down the hall. Darius rounded the corner. "Asha, you good? You've been gone." He stopped. His eyes went from Ronan to Silas, then back to Ronan. My brother did not know what Ronan was, but Darius Bennett had never needed supernatural information to know when a man was dangerous. He stepped in front of me immediately. Not a little. All the way. "Who are you?" Darius asked. Ronan's eyes flicked to him. Most men would have backed up from that look. Darius did not. I loved him so much it hurt. "Darius," I said softly. "No, baby girl." His voice stayed calm, which meant he was furious. I asked him. Ronan did not bristle, did not threaten, did not even raise his voice. Ronan Blackwood. Darius's head turned slightly toward me. "Oregon Ronan?" My stomach dropped. I had not told him Ronan's name. Not on purpose. Apparently heartbreak had leaks. Ronan heard the hesitation. Of course he did. The man could probably hear guilt sweating. "Yes," I said. "That Ronan." Darius faced him again. "You the reason my sister came back looking like somebody ripped her heart out and packed it in her carry-on?" "Darius." Ronan's expression did not change, but something in his eyes darkened. "I gave her a reason to leave," he said. That shut me up. Darius blinked like he had expected denial, arrogance, maybe a rich man's speech about misunderstanding. Not that. "Well," Darius said after a second, "that was almost mature. I still don't like your face." Silas coughed once. Ronan ignored him. "I need to speak with Asha." "Then speak while I stand right here." "This concerns matters you do not understand." "My sister concerns me. Try again." The air between them went tight. I pushed around Darius before testosterone turned the waiting room into a crime scene. "Stop, both of you." Darius looked down at me. "Ash." I said stop. He hated it. I could see that. But he stepped back half an inch. That was Bennett obedience. Technically present. Barely useful. Ronan's gaze dropped to the folder clutched against my chest. Hospital paperwork. Discharge possibilities. Post-op risks. Payment confirmations. Malik Bennett printed across the top in bold black letters. His eyes stayed there. Then they lifted to mine, and I watched him understand. Not all of it. Not the nights I spent staring at the Velvet Hour profile with shaking hands. Not the shame. Not Maeve's offer. Not the way I told myself one night could save one life, and then somehow walked straight into Ronan Blackwood's heart. But enough. His voice changed. "Your brother." I held the folder tighter. "He had surgery." "For what?" Darius cut in. "That is family business." Ronan did not look at him. "Asha." I should have lied. I was so tired of lying. "An AVM," I said, near his brainstem. It ruptured. They had to embolize it first, then operate. Ronan went very still. People thought stillness meant coldness with him. They were wrong. Sometimes Ronan went still because if he moved, whatever was inside him might escape. "The money," he said quietly. My chest burned. Darius looked sharply at me. "What money?" I closed my eyes. Not here. Not like this. Ronan saw that too. His face hardened, but not in the way I expected. Not cruel, not accusing. Controlled. Like he had put armor over pain. "We need privacy," he said. Darius gave a humorless laugh. "You got jokes under all that black clothing?" "Darius, please," I said. He looked at me then. Really looked. Whatever he saw made his anger bend into fear. "Fine," he said, "but I'm standing right over there, within punching distance." Ronan glanced at him. "That distance is shorter than you think." Darius pointed at him. "See, that sounded like a threat." "It was a correction." "Hate him," Darius told me. I figured. Silas moved toward the hall windows, positioning himself where he could see the elevators, the nurse's station, and both exits. I noticed. So did Ronan. My stomach tightened. "This is not just about you being angry," I said. "No." The single word felt heavier than it should have. "Then why are you here?" For the first time since he appeared, Ronan looked unsure. Only for a moment. Only with me. Then the Alpha returned. "The Council knows a human left Blackridge with knowledge of our world." Our world. Not werewolves, not here, not in front of Darius. But my brother heard enough to frown. "What world?" Darius asked. I did not turn around. Ronan's eyes stayed on mine. "They issued an order." My fingers went cold around the folder. "What kind of order?" "To bring you back." The hallway sounds faded. The nurses, the monitors, the distant elevator chime. Everything narrowed to him. I shook my head. "No." "Asha." "No, Malik just got out of surgery. Darius is barely sleeping. I am not getting on a plane because some old wolf politicians got nervous." Darius's voice sharpened behind me. "Old what?" Ronan stepped closer. Not enough to crowd me. Enough that I could see the strain at the edges of his control. "If I do not bring you back," he said, low and terrible, "they will come for you themselves." I stared at him. And for the first time since leaving Oregon, I understood that Blackridge had not been the dangerous place. It had been the place keeping the danger out. Darius stared at me like I had just opened my mouth and dropped a live grenade between us. "Old wolf politicians," he repeated. I closed my eyes for 1 second. 1 second was all I got before everything I had been running from caught up, grabbed me by the throat, and demanded payment. "Not here," I said. Darius's face hardened. "Asha." "Please." That did it. Not because he was done being angry. Darius Bennett was never done being angry when someone threatened me, but because he heard the crack under the word. He glanced toward Malik's room, then back at Ronan, like he was calculating whether he could leave me alone with him and still sleep at night. He decided no. "I'm coming with you." "No," Ronan said. Darius laughed once. "See, this is why your whole vibe irritates me." I stepped between them before the hospital became a supernatural crime documentary. "Darius, Malik is alone." That landed where I knew it would. His jaw flexed, his eyes cut toward the ICU doors. Low blow. Necessary blow. "I'll be right there," I promised. 5 minutes. "You get 3. "Darius." 4, because I'm generous." Ronan looked like he wanted to correct him. I shot him a look. He did not correct him. Progress, apparently, looked like a feared alpha of Blackridge Pack allowing my brother to insult him in a hospital hallway. Silas moved to stand near the elevators, hands folded in front of him, calm as a stone gargoyle in an expensive suit. Darius pointed at Ronan. "If she comes back crying harder, I'm aiming for your nose." Ronan's eyes dipped to him. Understood. Darius blinked, clearly annoyed that his threat had been accepted with dignity. I don't like that either. I grabbed Ronan's sleeve and pulled him toward the stairwell. He let me. That was worse than if he had resisted. The stairwell door shut behind us with a heavy metal groan, sealing out the noise of monitors and nurses and Darius's barely contained murder. The air smelled like concrete, disinfectant, and old rain. Fluorescent lights buzzed above us. Somewhere below, a door slammed. Ronan stood on the landing, too tall, too broad, too impossible for a place this ordinary. I crossed my arms because if I did not, I might reach for him. And I was not allowed to reach for him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. How did they know? I asked. The council has watchers near major airports. After the rogue attack at Blackridge, they began monitoring anyone connected to the estate. So they followed me? Not at first. His voice stayed careful. They flagged your name after you landed in Atlanta. My name, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. My brother is in the ICU, and somewhere a bunch of ancient werewolves are filing paperwork on me. His jaw tightened. They are not ancient. Ronan. Some of them are ancient. Oh my God. This is not funny. No, but if I don't make it funny, I'm going to scream. He looked at me then, really looked, and whatever he saw stripped some of the alpha from his face. Asha. No, I pointed at him because his voice had gone soft and soft was dangerous. You don't get to do that yet. Do what? Say my name like you're hurting too. His mouth closed. Good. Let it hurt. Let it sit between us, ugly and breathing. I had carried mine across a country. You thought I took the money and ran, I said. He did not answer fast enough. That was answer enough. I nodded, looking past him at the gray concrete wall. Right. I found out after you left. Found out what? That Maeve paid you. The name hit like a bruise pressed too hard. Maeve. Her pearl earrings, her soft hands, her kind smile wrapped around a knife I had willingly walked into. She didn't pay me, I said. She paid for a miracle I couldn't afford. Ronan flinched. Just a little. I saw it anyway. The hospital wanted deposits, specialists, imaging, surgery, medication, follow-ups. My voice started shaking, and I hated it. Malik raised us after our parents died. He worked himself into the ground. Darius picked up every shift he could. I tried loans, fundraisers, begging. Do you know what it feels like to sit across from someone in a financial office while they explain the price of your brother's life like they're discussing furniture? Ronan's hands curled at his sides. I kept going because if I stopped, I would lose courage. I signed up for Velvet Hour because I was desperate, because I thought maybe one horrible choice could keep Malik alive. Then Maeve found me. She offered money. Real money. Enough money to make surgeons return calls, enough to move Malik up lists, enough to breathe. His eyes closed briefly. When they opened, guilt was there. Raw. I almost hated him for showing it now. I came to Blackridge because I had no options, I said. I stayed because... My throat tightened. Because you were not what I expected. Ronan's voice was rough. And you said nothing. I laughed again, sharper this time. You say that like truth would have been simple. It would have been better than this. Would it? I stepped closer, anger burning through exhaustion. What was I supposed to say? Hi, Ronan. Your grandmother bought me from a luxury matchmaking service because my brother's brain could kill him at any second. By the way, I'm starting to care about you, but don't worry, the money came first. His expression twisted. I hated that too. I was ashamed, I whispered. Every time you looked at me like I might be something good, I remembered I came with a price tag. You were never... Don't. My voice cracked like glass. Do not stand there now and tell me what I was never. I know what I signed. Silence pressed into the stairwell. Then Ronan said, "I believed the worst." I looked at him. The words had cost him. I could tell. Ronan did not confess weakness easily. He dragged it out of himself like a blade. "I thought you had used me," he said. "I thought you had taken what Maeve offered and left as soon as you could. You didn't ask." "No." "You didn't call." "No." "You decided." His throat moved. "Yes." There it was. The cleanest wound. Not the bargain. Not the money. Not even leaving. He had decided what I was when I was not there to defend myself. I wiped under my eye angrily. "You know what the worst part is?" His voice lowered. "Tell me." I would have answered. I swallowed hard. If you had called, I would have answered. I would have been terrified and humiliated, but I would have picked up because it was you. Ronan looked away. For the first time since I had known him, he looked less like a man built to command, and more like someone standing in the ruins of a house he had burned down himself. "I am sorry," he said. The words were stiff, not insincere, just unfamiliar in his mouth. Like he did not use them often enough to know where they belonged. "That's not enough," I said. "I know. I don't think you do." His gaze came back to mine. "Then teach me." The breath left me. Damn him. Damn him for saying it like that. Quiet, honest, unprotected. My body remembered him before my common sense could stop it. The warmth of his hands, the weight of his attention, the way the world went silent when he looked at me as if nothing else deserved to exist. He stepped closer, slowly, giving me time. That almost hurt more. His hand lifted toward my face, then stopped halfway, fingers flexing like touching me was a right he had lost and did not know how to ask for again. My heart betrayed me. It leaned toward him. So did I. Just an inch. Enough to breathe him in. Pine, smoke, rain. Ronan. His eyes dropped to my mouth. Mine dropped to his. The stairwell disappeared. For one dangerous second, I wanted to forget everything. The council, the money, the hospital, the fact that love could still sit inside anger and make a home there. Then I remembered Malik lying upstairs with bandages around his head. I remembered crying on a plane alone. I remembered Ronan choosing suspicion before truth. I put my hand against his chest. No. He froze instantly. Not angry. Not offended. Frozen like the word had gone through him. I pushed gently, though there was no way I could move him unless he allowed it. He stepped back. A full step. Then another. The space between us opened again, cold and necessary. "I'm sorry," he said, quieter this time. "For almost kissing me. For wanting to when I've not earned it." His eyes stayed on mine. "For believing my fear before I believed you." My hand trembled, so I curled it into a fist. Attraction is not forgiveness. "I know." "Do you?" "Yes." He said it simply. No argument, no command. No alpha pride rising to meet my anger. Just yes. That made my chest ache worse than if he had fought me. I turned toward the railing and gripped it. "What will the council do if I refuse?" Ronan was silent for a second too long. I looked back. "Tell me." "They will petition for containment." The word crawled over my skin. Containment. "They will call it protection." "Of course they will. If they determine your knowledge is a threat, they may order memory shielding." My stomach dropped. "Shielding," I repeated. His face hardened. "A forced removal of specific memories." "Say erase." "Asha." "Say it." His jaw worked. Then, with visible effort, he said, "Erase." The stairwell tilted. I thought of Blackridge's halls, Mrs. Vale's tea, Theo's shy grin. Maeve's secrets. Ronan's hand at my back, his mouth against my hair, the way I had loved him despite every reason not to. Gone. Not faded with time. Taken. My voice came out small, and I hated that most of all. Would you let them? No. The answer was immediate. Too immediate. I turned on him. You don't get to decide for me either. His brows drew together. I mean it, I said. You don't get to drag me back. You don't get to lock me up for my own good. You don't get to make choices and call them protection. Ronan looked like every instinct in his body had just been insulted. Then he breathed in, slowly, like restraint was a muscle he was forcing himself to use. What do you want from me? He asked. The truth, I said. All of it. Before I decide anything. He nodded once. Then I will give it. The stairwell door banged open. Darius stood there, chest rising fast, eyes wide. For one horrible second, I thought the council had already come. Then he said, Malik's awake. Everything inside me stopped. Darius looked from me to Ronan, suspicion still burning through his fear. And he wants to know, my brother added, who the hell made his baby sister cry.
I had been threatened by rival alphas, council elders, hunters with silver in their pockets, and wolves who mistook ambition for strength. None of them had ever pointed at me with the pure, exhausted violence of Asha Bennett and said, if Malik's blood pressure goes up because of your face, I'm unplugging something important from you. Asha shot him a look. Darius. What? I'm being welcoming. You are absolutely not. I haven't hit him, that is hospitality. Malik Bennett lay propped against white pillows, half his head bandaged, eyes heavy from medication and pain. But when his gaze found me, there was nothing weak in it. I understood at once why Asha loved him. He had the same stubborn warmth in him, the same refusal to bow just because fear had entered the room. So, Malik said, voice rough, you're Oregon. Darius leaned against the wall. That's what I said. Asha sat beside Malik's bed, clutching his hand like she could anchor him to the earth through sheer will. Her curls were pulled back badly, strands escaping around her face. She looked exhausted, beautiful, furious, and so far beyond my reach that my wolf went quiet with grief. I stepped closer, stopping at the foot of the bed. Not near Asha. Not where Darius could decide I had committed another crime by breathing too close to his sister. My name is Ronan Blackwood. Malik watched me for a long moment. You made her cry. Asha groaned softly. Malik. No, I'm awake now. I get to participate in family business. You just had brain surgery. And yet I'm still making better choices than you. Darius pointed at him. That is medical fact. Asha looked at the ceiling like she was asking God for different brothers. I deserved their anger, every sharp word, every suspicious look. I could have met it with dominance. Once I would have. The alpha in me did not like being challenged by humans in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and fear. The man in me looked at Asha's red-rimmed eyes and understood dominance had cost me enough. Yes, I said. The room went still. Malik blinked slowly. Yes. Yes, I made her cry. Asha's hand tightened around his. Darius pushed off the wall. That was not where I expected you to go with that. I believe the worst of her, I said. I was wrong. Malik's gaze sharpened, even through the medication. You always admit when you're wrong, or is this a special occasion? A rare one, Silas murmured from the doorway. I turned my head. He looked away as if the wall had become fascinating. Asha made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not broken halfway through. I would have given anything to hear it whole. Malik studied me like he was deciding where to cut. You love her? The question struck harder than the accusation. Asha went completely still. Darius muttered, "Oh, we're doing this with morphine in the room. Great." I looked at Asha. She would not look at me. "Yes," I said. Her breath caught. The machine beside Malik's bed beeped steadily, indifferent to the damage one word could do. Malik's face softened, but only a little. "Then learn something fast, Ronan Blackwood." "I am listening. My sister is not something you rescue so you can feel strong. She has been saving people since she was a kid." His voice weakened, but the steel remained. "You want to stand near her? Fine, but don't you dare make her smaller to do it." My throat tightened. There were council laws older than this hospital, pack rituals written in blood, alpha commandments carved into bone and tradition. None of them had ever sounded as absolute as Malik Bennett, bandaged and barely awake, defending his baby sister from a bed. "I understand," I said. Asha finally looked at me. "No," Malik said, "you don't, but you can." Darius nodded. "See? Brain surgery and still wise." Malik closed his eyes briefly. "Darius, if you don't stop talking, I'm going back under." The nurse arrived before Darius could answer and declared all of us too intense for a recovery room. Her words, not mine. Asha protested. Malik tried to protest and fell asleep halfway through the first syllable. Darius insisted he was medically necessary. The nurse remained unmoved. 10 minutes later, I found myself standing outside the hospital while Darius announced, "We're going to Waffle House." I stared at him. "Now?" "Yes, now. It is nearly 2 in the morning. That's when Waffle House is in its natural habitat. I can arrange food brought here." Asha wiped under her eyes with her sleeve. "No." I looked at her. She lifted her chin. "If you want to understand my world, Alpha, you can start with greasy food under fluorescent lights." Darius grinned. "Oh, she called you Alpha. Is that your government name?" Silas made a strangled sound behind me. I ignored both of them. "If you want Waffle House, we will go to Waffle House." Darius looked disappointed. I hate when he's agreeable. "I can stop," I offered. Asha's mouth twitched. That almost smile decided me. I would endure anything this city put before me. Even Waffle House. The establishment had no visible security, too many windows, and a woman behind the counter who looked at me once and said, "Lord, who ordered the handsome undertaker?" Darius nearly collapsed into the booth. Asha laughed. Not fully, but enough that my wolf lifted its head. The sound moved through me with the force of a vow. We sat in a corner because I refused to put my back to the door. Silas took a stool at the counter, pretending not to watch every person inside. Darius ordered for all of us without permission. "He'll have grits," Darius said, pointing at me. I did not request that. "You're in Atlanta. Grits are not a request, they are a rite of passage." Asha leaned her elbows on the table. "Careful. If you disrespect them, Darius will challenge you." I have been challenged many times. "Not by a Bennett with sleep deprivation and access to hot sauce," she said. The food arrived fast, too fast. I looked down at the plate. A waffle, eggs, hash browns, a bowl of something white and steaming. I picked up the spoon. Darius watched with the intensity of a man witnessing justice. Asha's eyes danced for the first time all night. I tasted the grits. The texture was unexpected. The flavor was subtle. The experience was not one I would have chosen twice. "Well," Darius demanded. I swallowed. Asha pressed her lips together, fighting laughter. I took another bite because she was watching. "They are," I searched for diplomacy, "persistent." Asha broke. She laughed into her hands, shoulders shaking, eyes bright with exhaustion and relief. Darius slapped the table. Even Silas turned away, mouth twitching. I ate another spoonful. Asha lowered her hands. You don't have to keep eating them. Yes, I said, I do. Why? Because you laughed. Because I would eat ashes if it put that sound back in your chest. Because I did not know how to fix what I had broken, but I could start by letting your world make a fool of me. I said. Darius implied it was culturally significant. Darius pointed his fork at me. Don't put this on me, Wolf Batman. Asha laughed again, softer this time. Wolf Batman. I looked at her. Is that meant to insult me? Yes, she said. Is it working? A little. Then I dislike it. Darius beamed. He cares. Look at him, he cares deeply. I did not dignify that with a response. Unfortunately, Asha noticed. Her smile grew. By the time we left, I had consumed the grits, half a waffle, and coffee that tasted like it had been brewed in punishment. Miss Tanya called me sweetheart and told Asha to bring me back when I learned how to relax my face. Asha promised she would try. I held on to that word. Try. Not forgive, not trust, but try. Hours later, after Malik remained stable and Darius fell asleep in a chair with his arms crossed like he was guarding a kingdom, I escorted Asha to the hotel suite I had arranged across from the hospital. She objected until I said, there are 2 bedrooms. Darius has one if he wants it. I will take the sofa. She narrowed her eyes. You rented a suite? Yes. Ronan. You needed a shower and a bed. I don't need you buying comfort. I know. I forced the words out carefully. This is not forgiveness, it is a room. That silenced her. Inside, the city glowed beyond the windows, all gold lights and dark glass. Asha stood near the bed, suddenly unsure. Without the hospital noise, her exhaustion filled the room. I don't forgive you yet, she said. I know. I'm still angry. I know. I missed you. The words opened something in me. I did not move. I barely breathed. She crossed the space between us and touched my chest with trembling fingers. This doesn't fix anything, she whispered. No. Her eyes lifted. And if you ask me if I'm sure more than once I'm making you sleep in the hallway. I would, I said. Her mouth softened. That's the problem. I know you would. Then she kissed me. I let her lead. It cost me every violent instinct I had, but I let her set the pace, the pressure, the permission. Her hands slid into my hair. Mine hovered at her waist until she made an impatient sound and pulled them against her. Touch me, Ronan. My control nearly fractured. I gathered her carefully, reverently, as if she were both flame and wound. She kissed me harder, grief and want tangled together until I could not tell which of us was shaking. When I lifted her, she wrapped herself around me, and the soft sound she made against my mouth nearly brought me to my knees. On the bed, I paused. She glared up at me. That was the one. I know. Good. So I kissed her again, and this time I did not ask. I listened. To her breath, her hands. The way she arched closer when she wanted more and softened when she needed tenderness. Every touch became an apology I had no right to ask her to accept. Every kiss became a promise I had not yet earned but meant to keep. When she finally slept against me, warm and heavy with trust she had not meant to give, I stayed awake. I brought her water she did not drink, adjusted the thermostat, checked the locks twice, placed snacks from the minibar on the bedside table because I had learned she became irritable when unfed. At dawn, my phone vibrated silently. Silas. Council courier landed in Atlanta. Harrow's seal. Asha stirred against my chest. I closed my hand around the phone and stared at the city beyond the glass. The council was already here. Asha slept with one hand curled against my chest and the other tucked beneath her cheek, as if even unconscious she did not fully trust rest to hold her. I had not moved in hours. Not because I feared waking her, though I did. Because this was the first peace she had been given since I arrived in Atlanta, and I would have bled quietly before disturbing it. The phone in my hand vibrated again. Silas. Council courier at the hospital, Harrow's seal, refusing to leave. My wolf rose hard and silent. Asha stirred. I closed my fist around the phone, but she was already awake. Her eyes opened slowly, sleep clouding them for one breath before memory returned. Then she saw my face. "No," she said. I went still. "No. No more deciding what I can handle before I'm in the room." The words struck where they were meant to. I sat up carefully. "Silas says a council courier is at the hospital." Her expression sharpened. "For me." "Yes." She pushed herself upright, curls falling around her face. The sheet slipped from one shoulder and my hand flexed with the instinct to cover her, to keep every danger from knowing she was soft anywhere. But Asha Bennett was not soft in the places that mattered. She reached for her sweatshirt. "What do they want?" "Immediate compliance." She gave a short laugh. "That sounds like a disease." "It is often fatal." Her mouth twitched despite herself, then settled. "They want me back." "Yes." "And you were going to tell them what?" "That you were not available to be ordered around like property." She paused with one arm in her sleeve. I waited. Her gaze moved over me, suspicious and wounded, and something more fragile beneath both. "That actually sounds like growth." "I am attempting it." "Careful, you might strain something." "I will endure." She looked away, but I saw the almost smile before she hit it. Then she stood, and the air changed with her decision. "I'll go back to Blackridge," she said. My heart stopped. "No." Her brows lifted. "Excuse me?" The word had left me before thought could temper it. I rose from the bed, every instinct rejecting the idea of bringing her anywhere near Harrow or the council. "No," I repeated, forcing the growl out of my voice. "Not because they demand it." Her eyes narrowed. "Good save." "I mean it, Asha." "So do I." She stepped closer, chin lifting. "I am not running from people who think they can erase me because I know too much. I'm going back because I choose to face them." The word moved through the room like a blade. Choose. It had become sacred between us. I bowed my head once. "Then name your terms." She studied me. "You don't even know what they are." "I will manage." "That confidence is annoying." "I have heard." Her mouth softened. Then she held up one finger. "First, I see Malik." "Of course." "Second, I tell Darius everything I can without making him think he's lost his mind." "That may be difficult." "He grew up with me. He's prepared." I inclined my head. "Third," she said, "before I leave Atlanta, you spend one day in my world." I frowned. "I am already in Atlanta." "No, you are standing in Atlanta looking like you're planning to conquer it." She pointed at me. "I mean my world. Grocery store, drive-through, bad movie with my brothers, normal human stuff." "Human stuff," I repeated. "Yes." "Is this strategically necessary?" "It is emotionally necessary." That was worse. I could argue strategy. Emotion was a field of traps, and Asha had begun walking me through it barefoot. "Very well," I said. Her eyes warmed. "You have no idea what you just agreed to." "I have survived wars." "You have not survived Darius in a grocery store." I considered that. Noted. We both freshened up quickly before heading out. The hospital was already awake when we arrived. Nurses moved between rooms, carts rattled, voices murmured. Silas waited near the elevator with the controlled patience of a man one insult away from violence. Darius stood beside him, arms crossed, glaring at the council courier. The courier wore a gray suit and the expression of someone who had never been slapped and desperately needed the education. He held a sealed envelope in one hand. Harrow's mark was pressed into crimson wax. Darius saw us first. There she is, and there's Wolf Batman. I object to that name, I said. I accept your objection and reject it. Asha's lips pressed together. The courier's gaze fixed on her. Asha Bennett. My wolf lunged against my control. He had no right to say her name. Asha stepped beside me before I could move in front of her. I hear you've been looking for me. The courier glanced at me, clearly expecting me to answer. Asha smiled without warmth. Try again. His nostrils flared. The council has ordered your immediate return to Blackridge for assessment. Darius leaned toward Silas. Assessment means kidnapping with paperwork, right? Silas said, often. I knew it. The courier ignored them. You will accompany Alf Blackwood today. No, Asha said. The single word made the hallway quieter. The courier blinked. No. I will return tomorrow, she said. I will appear before your council at Blackridge. I will answer questions. I will not be dragged, transferred, collected, retrieved, contained, or whatever other ugly little word you people use when you mean controlled. Pride moved through me so sharply it was almost pain. The courier's face tightened. You are in no position to dictate. You will chill, I said. Asha froze. Darius slowly turned his head toward me. Silas closed his eyes. The courier stared. What? Asha covered her face with one hand. Ronan. I looked at her. Was that incorrect? Darius wheezed. No, let him cook. Asha dropped her hand. Never say that in a council dispute again. I was told to use human phrasing. Not like a death sentence. The courier looked between us, baffled and offended. I took the envelope from his hand. Ms. Bennett has given her answer. Inform Harrow she travels by choice or not at all. Alpha Blackwood. You are in a hospital, I said softly. Her brother is recovering from surgery. If you disturb this family again before morning, I will consider it a hostile act. The courier swallowed. Darius squinted at me. That one I liked. Asha did not thank me. She did not need to. Her fingers brushed mine as she passed, brief and deliberate, and I stood frozen for half a second after she walked away. Darius pointed at me. You buffering? No. You absolutely buffering. I turned. I do not buffer. Silas murmured. You did pause. I will remember this betrayal. Asha laughed from the doorway of Malik's room, and the sound was worth every indignity. Malik was awake when we entered. Tired, voice rough, but awake. Asha bent over him immediately, her hand gentle on his arm. I have to go back, she told him. His eyes moved to me. I stood at the end of the bed and let him look. Dangerous? Malik asked. Yes, I said. Asha glared at me. He huffed. At least he doesn't lie pretty. Darius dropped into a chair. He lies broody. I am not broody, I said. 3 Bennetts looked at me. I conceded nothing. Malik's gaze returned to Asha. Are you choosing this? Yes. Not for him? No. Not because you feel guilty? Her voice softened. No. He nodded once. Then go handle your business. Darius will go with you. Darius sat up. I was waiting for my dramatic announcement. You announce everything, Asha said. Exactly. It's my brand. I looked at Malik. Blackridge is not safe for humans. His expression hardened. Then make it safe. A simple command. An impossible one. I bowed my head. I will do everything I can. Malik studied me for a long moment. Better. Not approval, but better. By midday, I was standing inside a grocery store wondering how humanity had survived itself. There were too many lights, too many carts, too many options for bread. Asha pushed the cart with a sense of purpose that suggested this was not shopping but ritual. Darius walked beside her, throwing items in without consultation. "No," Asha said, removing a box of cereal. Darius gasped. "That has marshmallows. It has dye and regret. It has joy. It has a cartoon vampire." Darius pointed at me. So does he, emotionally. I stared at the cereal box. I see no resemblance. Asha laughed and placed the cereal back on the shelf. Then she picked up granola bars, chocolate, mints, crackers, and a bottle of hot sauce. I watched the pattern. "You eat when distressed." She paused. "I snack when stressed." "That is what I said." "No, you made it sound like a medical condition." "It has symptoms." Darius whispered, "Careful, Count Gralula." Asha narrowed her eyes at me. "What symptoms?" "Irritability, silence, sudden threats against vending machines." "That machine robbed me." I agreed. Her expression softened despite herself. I took the basket from her hand and added more chocolate. She looked down. "Why are you buying all that?" "For emergencies." "Snack emergencies?" "Yes." That is both offensive and romantic. I am learning. At the drive-thru, I discovered humans spoke to walls. Asha rolled down the window. "Just tell them what you want." A voice crackled from the speaker. I leaned forward. "I require 3 chicken sandwiches, 2 orders of fries, 1 lemonade, 1 sweet tea, and whatever dessert is least disappointing." Asha collapsed against the seat, laughing. Darius slapped the back of my chair. "Alpha Broody just negotiated with a menu box." The speaker crackled again. Anything else?" I looked at Asha. She wiped her eyes. "Say, that's it, thanks." I turned back. "That is all, thank you." Darius shook his head. "We're gonna civilize you one nugget at a time." By evening, Malik's room had become a theater. Darius balanced a laptop on a tray table. Asha sat cross-legged in the chair beside Malik, stealing fries from Darius's bag. Malik pretended not to notice she was eating more than him. I stood near the wall until Asha looked at me and patted the narrow space beside her chair. "There. That is not a seat. It is today." So I sat on the floor beside her. Darius stared. "Did you just domesticate an alpha?" Asha kissed my cheek and turned back to the movie. My body stopped. Completely. Her lips had touched me in public, lightly, casually, as if affection could exist without battle, without blood, without apology. Darius leaned over, buffering again. I stared at the screen. I am watching the film. The movie hasn't started. Silas from the doorway said nothing. His silence was loud. Asha's fingers slid into my hair for one brief, absent stroke. I did not move for the rest of the opening credits. Later, when the hospital quieted and Malik slept again, Asha and I returned to the suite. Darius stayed behind, claiming he trusted me approximately 6%, but trusted Malik's nurses at least 8%. Asha locked the door behind us and leaned against it. Her smile was softer now, tired around the edges but real. "You did good today," she said. I was mocked repeatedly. "You survived." I was called Count Gralula. That was affection. It did not feel like affection. She stepped closer. Welcome to my family. I looked at her then, really looked, at the woman who had walked through fear all day and still found room for laughter, at the woman who refused to be taken, refused to be hidden, refused to let love become another cage. You are extraordinary, I said. Her teasing faded. Ronan. I know, I said. It fixes nothing. Her eyes searched mine. No, but it helps. She reached for me. This time there was no grief driving her hands, no desperate edge of goodbye. There was hesitation, yes, but also mischief, want, choice. You need to chill, she whispered against my mouth. I bent to her. I will attempt to chill. She laughed into the kiss. The sound undid me. I let her guide me backward, let her push my coat from my shoulders, let her unbutton my shirt with slow, deliberate fingers while pretending she was not watching my control fracture piece by piece. You're very serious about being undressed, she murmured. I take all tasks seriously. That is deeply tragic. Should I stop? Her hands stilled. Then her gaze lifted to mine, warm and certain. No. I kissed her like an answer. Not to claim. Not to soothe my guilt. Not to pull forgiveness from her body, and to be invited. To be there because she wanted me there. When I lowered her to the bed, she pulled me down laughing, then gasped when my mouth found the sensitive places I remembered, and the new ones she taught me with her hands in my hair. I took my time because she deserved no less. Every shiver, every broken whisper of my name, every arch of trust she gave me became a command I obeyed gladly. Then she turned the game on me. A wicked smile, a hand against my chest, a murmured "my turn." I had faced Silver without flinching. I had endured claws, council punishment, betrayal. None of it prepared me for Asha Bennett deciding to ruin me gently. She took me apart with kisses and laughter and slow confidence until I forgot every language but hers. When she came back into my arms, I was shaking with the force of restraint, and she saw it. She always saw too much. Still with me? She whispered. Always. Her gaze softened. Then there was no room left for teasing, and only heat, breath, the city glowing beyond the curtains, her body moving with mine because she chose the rhythm, the closeness, the trust. When she turned in my arms and drew me with her, offering me another kind of surrender that was not surrender at all, I held her as if the world might try to steal her, and learned again that holding was not the same as owning. She taught me that with every touch. I learned. Near dawn, Asha slept curled beside me, one knee hooked over mine, her hand resting possessively over my heart. I did not sleep. I memorized. Morning came too soon. At the hospital, Asha held Malik for a long time, careful of wires and bandages. Malik whispered something that made her eyes shine, and she nodded against his shoulder. Darius emerged with a duffel bag, sunglasses, and the expression of a man prepared to fight an entire species with snacks. I'm ready, he announced. Asha stared at him. You packed in 20 minutes? I packed vengeance and underwear. Priorities. Silas looked pained. At the private terminal, the council seal waited inside the envelope in my coat pocket, heavy as a threat. The jet stairs stood open. Asha stopped at the bottom. For one moment, Atlanta wind moved through her curls, and she looked back toward the city that had raised her, wounded her, fed her, and taught her how to survive. I stood beside her, not touching. You do not have to do this for me, I said. She looked at me then. I'm not. Then Asha Bennett climbed the stairs ahead of me, not as my captive, not as my mistake, not as a woman bought or brought back in chains. She boarded as herself, and I followed, knowing the council had no idea what was coming for them.
By the time the jet dropped through the clouds over Oregon, Darius had his face pressed to the window like a child on a field trip, and Ronan looked like he was trying not to rearrange the entire sky with his mind. Absolutely not, Darius said. I leaned over. What? He pointed through the oval window at the dark sweep of forest below, the mountains rising like old teeth beyond it, and the massive stone estate appearing between the trees. That. Ronan glanced up from his phone. Blackridge. That is not a house. That is a murder castle with plumbing. Silas, seated across from him, said, It has excellent plumbing. That does not help your case, Wolf Secret Service. Silas blinked. I pressed my lips together. Ronan's gaze sharpened. Why is he the Wolf Secret Service? Darius gestured at him. Look at him. Suit, silence. Knows 7 ways to kill me with a paperclip. 8, Silas said. Darius pointed at me. See? Honest. I respect it. I should not have laughed. Not with the council waiting. Not with my stomach tied in knots. Not with Blackridge rising beneath us like the place where I had fallen in love and been broken in almost the same breath. But I laughed anyway. Ronan heard it. Of course he did. His gold eyes found me, and the hard line of his mouth softened just a little. He looked tired. Not physically. Men like Ronan did not seem built for regular exhaustion, but somewhere deeper. Like he had spent the entire flight holding himself back from wrapping me in steel and calling it safety. He was learning. Slowly. Painfully. But learning. When we landed, he stepped down from the jet first. Then he turned and lifted his hand toward me. Stopped. His fingers hovered in the air between us. May I? That one little question hit harder than it should have. Darius made a choking noise behind me. Look at Mr. Consent with cheekbones. Ronan's eyes closed briefly. I put my hand in his before he could withdraw it. His palm was warm, steady, careful. I do not understand why my bones are under discussion, he said. Darius clapped him on the shoulder as he passed. Don't worry. Emotional damage with a jawline. You'll catch up. Ronan went completely still. I squeezed his hand. Don't kill my brother on day 1. I was considering day 2. Growth. The drive up to the estate felt longer than I remembered. The trees crowded close, dark and endless, branches bent beneath mist. Blackridge waited at the end of the road, all stone and iron and old secrets. I had hated this place, missed it, dreamed about it when I was too angry to admit I was dreaming. At the front steps, the doors opened before the car fully stopped. Mrs. Vale came out first. The second I saw her, something in my chest cracked. Oh, child, she breathed. Then she was down the steps and pulling me into her arms. I held on. Hard. She smelled like lavender soap and fresh bread, and the kind of comfort I had not let myself want. Her hands moved over my back, my hair, my shoulders, like she was counting all the places I had returned whole. You came back, she whispered. I did. I was so worried. That made my eyes burn. Me too, I admitted. Behind us, Darius muttered, Okay, who is the nice lady? And does she adopt grown men? Mrs. Vale released me just enough to look at him. Her eyes were wet, but her spine straightened with instant purpose. You must be Darius. That depends on what Ronan told you. That you threatened his nose. Darius smiled. Then yes, ma'am, proudly. Mrs. Vale patted his cheek. Good. Ronan looked betrayed. I loved it. Then something fast and blonde shot through the doorway. Asha! Theo nearly took me down. Ronan growled. Not loud. Not even fully. But enough that Theo froze half a step from me. I turned my head slowly. Ronan. His jaw locked. He approached quickly. He is 17. He is a wolf. He is Theo. Theo swallowed. I can hug from a safe distance. I opened my arms. He crashed into me anyway, all elbows in relief, and I hugged him tight while Ronan suffered in silence behind me. Darius leaned toward Silas. Is the tiny one dangerous? Theo pulled back, offended. I'm not tiny. Darius looked him up and down. Feral nephew, then. Theo considered that. I don't hate it. Of course he didn't. Pack members gathered near the entrance and along the steps. Faces I recognized, faces I didn't. Some watched with relief, some with curiosity, a few with suspicion, eyes moving from me to Darius, like humanity might be contagious. Someone near the door whispered, She's back. Another voice said softer, Welcome home. The word slid under my ribs. Home. I wasn't ready for that word. Maybe I wanted it too much. Ronan stood beside me, not in front of me, close enough that I could feel his heat, far enough that I could choose whether to lean. That mattered. Then Maeve appeared at the top of the steps. The warmth in me tightened. She looked smaller than I remembered, still elegant, still composed. Pearl earrings, silver hair pulled back, but guilt had carved shadows into her face. Asha, she said. Darius's smile vanished. Is this the money, Grandma? Darius, I warned softly. Maeve did not flinch from it. Yes. Ronan moved like he might step between us, then stopped himself. Good. Maeve descended one step. What I did to you was wrong. My throat worked. There were so many things I wanted to say. Ugly things, true things. Instead, I asked, which part? Her eyes closed for a breath. Darius nodded. We do specific apologies in this family. Maeve opened her eyes. Offering you money when I knew you were desperate. Bringing you here under a bargain that should never have existed. Keeping the truth from Ronan. Letting my fear for this pack become cruelty toward you. The courtyard went silent. Even the trees seemed to listen. My hands curled at my sides. I needed that money. I know. My brother is alive because of it. I know. And I hate that being grateful is tangled up with being used. Maeve's eyes shone. You have every right to hate me. I don't know what I feel yet. That is fair. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, I can hear your apology. That's all I can give you today. She bowed her head. That is more than I deserve. Darius leaned closer to me. I still don't like her, but that was a decent start. Ronan murmured, Darius. What? I whispered. You did not. Inside, Blackridge smelled the same. Wood smoke, stone, polish, old books, rain. My chest ached with memory. The entry hall had not changed, but I had. I walked beneath the antler chandelier with my brother beside me and Ronan behind me, carrying both our bags because Darius had declared, if I'm entering a wolf mansion, I need my hands free for nonsense. Silas took us toward the guest wing. Darius kept staring. So where's the snack zone? Mrs. Vale turned. The kitchen is always open. He stopped walking. Always? Yes. He looked at me. Asha, we may have misjudged the murder castle. Ronan reached into his coat and handed me a chocolate bar without breaking stride. I stared at it. Why do you have this? You were quiet. That means chocolate? In Atlanta, yes. Darius slapped both hands over his heart. Emotional support, Werewolf. Ronan's expression went deadly calm. I dislike that one. That means it's working. I took the chocolate. It is both offensive and romantic, I said. I was aiming for something useful. You got there. For a few minutes, I let myself breathe. Then Silas's phone chimed. The air changed. Ronan stopped first. Of course he did. Silas read the message, and whatever he saw turned his face hard. What? I asked. He looked at Ronan. I stepped forward. No, look at me. Silas did. The council delegation has moved ahead of schedule. Elder Harrow's outriders are at the northern gate. My stomach dropped, but I refused to let it show. Darius looked between us. Outriders sounds like people who wear too much leather and make bad choices. They brought an order, Silas said. You are to be confined to the east guest wing until the hearing. Darius Bennett is to be removed from Pack territory for his own protection. Darius laughed once. Oh, they're adorable. Ronan's eyes burned gold. No, he said. The word rolled through the hall. Several wolves lowered their heads. I did not. I stepped beside him. No, I agreed, but I say it for myself. Ronan looked at me. For 1 second his face was instinct. Protect. Possess. Command. Then he breathed in. And let me stand. Darius noticed. Look at that, he said. Emotional damage with a jawline learned boundaries. Ronan did not look away from me. I am going to allow that insult because I am occupied. Buffering and occupied. Big day for you. Outside, a low howl moved through the trees. Not wild. Warning. The front doors stood open at the end of the hall, and beyond them the mist had thickened around the drive. Headlights cut through it, slow and deliberate. The council had arrived early. Of course they had. Fear slid cold through my stomach, but beneath it something steadier rose. I had run once. I wasn't running now. Mrs. Vale touched my shoulder. Theo stood near the stairs, jaw tight. Darius moved to my other side like he had any business squaring up against werewolf politics in sneakers. Ronan's voice lowered. You do not have to meet them at the door. I looked at him. Yes, I said. I do. Then I walked toward the entrance of Blackridge with my brother on one side, and Alpha on the other, and an entire wolf house watching to see whether a human woman would bow. I did not. The council did not like being met at the door. That was unfortunate for them, because I was done being convenient. Their representative stood on the front drive in a black coat buttoned to his throat, silver hair tied back, Harrow's seal hanging from a chain at his wrist, like a threat he could jingle. 2 wolves flanked him. Not Blackridge wolves. They carried themselves differently. Too still, too clean, too pleased with being feared. Ronan stood beside me. Not in front. Beside. I noticed. So did everyone else. The council order is clear, the representative said. Asha Bennett is to be confined until the hearing. The human male is to be removed from Pack territory. Darius leaned toward me. Human male? I have a name. You do, I said. Try not to make it worse. I make no promises. Ronan's voice cut through the mist. Blackridge is sovereign territory. The council may request appearance. It may not confine a guest under my roof without majority authorization. The man's mouth tightened. Alpha Blackwood, your judgment is already under review. Oh, they brought drama, Darius whispered. I stepped forward before Ronan could answer with teeth. Then review this. I will attend your hearing. I will answer questions. I will not be locked in a room. My brother stays with me. If that bothers Elder Harrow, he can write it down in his feelings journal. Silas made a faint choking sound behind us. The representative stared at me like no one had ever insulted bureaucracy in front of him before. Ronan's mouth twitched. Barely. But I saw it. You will comply, the representative said. Ronan inhaled. I knew that inhale. It was the one before Alpha Ronan appeared, and made everybody remember they had bones breakable by design. I touched his wrist. His gold eyes lowered to me. Don't say chill, I murmured. His jaw flexed. I was not going to. You absolutely were. Darius nodded. He had the face. Ronan looked deeply wounded. The council wolves did not understand any of this, which made it better. I lifted my chin. Tomorrow, at the hearing. Until then, I'm staying here. The representative looked from me to Ronan, then to the pack gathered behind us. Mrs. Vale stood near the doorway with her hands clasped tight. Theo glared like he was trying to set the man's coat on fire with teenage rage. Maeve watched from the shadowed hall, her face drawn but steady. The representative finally inclined his head. "Elder Harrow will hear of your defiance." "Tell him to stretch first," Darius said. "Sounds like he's carrying a lot." This time Silas actually coughed. The council delegation turned and disappeared into the fog, headlights swallowed by the trees. Only when they were gone did the whole house seem to breathe again. Ronan looked at me. "Feelings journal?" "I was under pressure." "It was effective." "That better not be your new human phrase." "No," he said solemnly. "I am saving Chill for war." Darius pointed at him. "Growth. Terrifying growth. But growth." For a few hours, Blackridge pretended it was just a house. Mrs. Vale fed us like the hearing could be defeated with stew and warm bread. Theo sat across from Darius and asked entirely too many questions about Atlanta. Darius answered all of them incorrectly on purpose. "Yes," he told Theo, "every Waffle House has a secret underground fight club." Theo's eyes widened. "No," I said. Darius sighed. "You hate culture." Ronan sat at the head of the table, looking like a king forced to attend family dinner in a sitcom. Every time I went quiet, his hand drifted toward his coat. The third time, I caught his wrist. "Do you have snacks in there?" He hesitated. Darius gasped. "He does." Ronan removed a granola bar, 2 peppermints, and a tiny packet of hot sauce from his inner pocket. I stared. "Why do you have hot sauce?" "You approved it in Atlanta." "I bought it for food." "You become less hostile when properly seasoned." Mrs. Vale covered her mouth. Theo lost the fight and laughed into his sleeve. I took the granola bar and tried not to smile too hard. "That is offensive." "And romantic," Darius added, pointing at Ronan. "Emotional support werewolf strikes again." Ronan closed his eyes. For a moment, warmth sat at the table with us. Then I looked up and realized Ronan had gone still. Not angry, still. Far away still. His gaze was fixed on the hallway beyond the dining room, where a portrait hung in the dim light. I had passed it before without really seeing it. A woman with dark hair, golden eyes, and a mouth too gentle for the cold frame around her. Ronan stood. No one stopped him. I waited 3 breaths, then followed. He stood beneath the portrait with his hands at his sides. "That's her," I said softly. "My mother." His voice held no roughness. That made it worse. "Evelyn Blackwood." "She had your eyes." "No." He looked up at her. "I had hers." I moved beside him, careful not to touch until he allowed it. "You never talk about her." There was nothing to say. There's always something to say about a mother. His throat moved. "She left." The words were old, rehearsed, worn smooth from years of being used as a shield. "When?" "I was 15. His gaze stayed on the portrait. "She kissed my forehead after dinner, told me not to argue with my father at council the next morning. I told her I hated council dinners. She smiled and said, 'Then survive this one for me.'" My chest tightened. "The next morning she was gone," he said. "Her room's empty, jewelry missing, several pack accounts drained. The council informed my father she had fled with a human contact, possibly south." I understood then. The money. The leaving. The human world. Me. I looked at him until he finally turned. "You saw her when you looked at me," I said. Pain moved through his face. "Yes." The honesty hurt. But not as much as the lie would have. "I am not going to be punished for another woman's disappearance, Ronan." My voice shook, but I held it firm. "Not by you. Not by this pack. Not by the council. I have my own story." "I know." No, I said. You're learning. His head bowed. I made you pay for a wound you did not make. Yes. I am sorry. I know that too. Behind us, a floorboard creaked. Maeve stood in the hall holding a thin leather folder to her chest. Ronan's expression hardened on instinct. Maeve. She looked smaller than she had at the front steps. There is something I should have shown you years ago. Silas appeared behind her, face grim. The air changed again. Maeve opened the folder with trembling fingers. When your father died, some of his council correspondence came to me. I thought this was only more proof that Evelyn left willingly. I did not read it carefully. Or perhaps I was afraid to. Ronan did not move. She handed him the paper. He stared at it. Then his brows drew together. What is it? I asked. His voice dropped into something almost soundless. A transfer authorization. Silas stepped forward. Council custody. Private classification. I looked over Ronan's arm. The words were old, formal, cruel. Subject, Evelyn Blackwood. Status, resistant. Cognitive veil approved upon relocation. My blood went cold. Cognitive veil, I whispered. Memory shielding. Erasure. Ronan's hand tightened around the page until it crumpled. No, Maeve breathed. No, I thought... Harrow signed it, Silas said. Ronan looked at the signature. Everything in him went quiet. Not calm. Destroyed. He sat down on the bench beneath his mother's portrait like his body had forgotten how to stand. I hated her, he said. No one answered. I hated her for leaving me with him. His voice did not break. That was what broke me. For choosing freedom over me. For proving every cruel thing my father said about weakness, and women, and wanting. I knelt in front of him. His eyes found mine, and for once there was no Alpha there. No command. No wall. Just a boy who had been lied to for 24 years. They took her, he said. I think they did. And I let that lie make me cruel to you. I touched his face. This time, he leaned into my hand. You are not your father, I said. I became close enough. No. I moved between his knees and wrapped my arms around him. You stopped. You listened. You changed direction before it was too late. His forehead lowered to my shoulder. For the first time since I had known him, Ronan Blackwood let someone hold him like he was the one who might fall apart. So I held on. Later, in his room, he stood near the fire with the same lost quiet clinging to him. You do not have to stay, he said. I know. I may not be good company. I'm not here for company. His eyes lifted. I crossed the room and took his hand. You don't have to protect me right now. You don't have to plan. You don't have to be useful. A rough breath left him. I do not know how. Then let me teach you. He came to me carefully, like asking without words. I answered by touching him first, his shoulders, his jaw, the tense line of his neck. I kissed him slowly until the stiffness in him turned into something warmer, more human, more afraid. When I drew him down to the bed, he followed. No command. No control. Just Ronan, shaking under my hands, letting himself be wanted without earning it through sacrifice. I held his face when he kissed me, held his shoulders when his breath came unevenly, held him when the grief rose again and he buried it against my skin instead of behind his teeth. And when we came together, it was not fierce like battle or desperate like goodbye. It was quiet, open, a promise neither of us was ready to speak. Afterward, he lay with his head against my chest, one arm around my waist, heavy and warm, and finally sleeping. I stayed awake, fingers moving through his hair, watching the fire burn low. Just before dawn, a knock sounded at the door. Ronan woke instantly. Silas's voice came from the other side. The council has moved the hearing to first light. Ronan lifted his head. I reached for his hand before the alpha could rise alone. Then, I said, we get dressed. Silas gave me the whistle before we reached the great hall. It was small, black, and cold against my palm. I looked down at it. Is this werewolf pepper spray? No, Silas said. It is louder. Darius leaned over my shoulder. Wolf Secret Service comes prepared. Silas did not blink. Always. Ronan stood beside me, dressed in black, jaw carved tight enough to crack stone. He had barely spoken since dawn, but his hand had found mine 3 times and let go 3 times, like he was reminding himself I was not something to hold on to by force. I slipped the whistle into my pocket. Thank you, I told Silas. He nodded once. If you are separated from us, use it. Ronan's eyes flashed. She will not be separated. I looked at him. He exhaled through his nose. We will do everything possible to prevent separation. Look at you, Darius said. Boundaries before breakfast. Ronan ignored him, which meant Darius was winning. The great hall had been turned into a courtroom. Blackridge's long tables had been pushed back. Chairs lined the walls. Pack members stood shoulder to shoulder beneath the old rafters, watching with wary eyes and clenched hands. Mrs. Vale sat near the front, her lips pressed tight. Theo stood behind her, vibrating with the kind of anger only a teenager could make look both dangerous and inconvenient. Maeve sat alone. She looked at me when I entered. I looked back. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But not nothing either. At the far end of the hall, Elder Harrow waited in a high-backed chair like someone had ordered him from a catalog titled Villains Who Enjoy Paperwork. Silver hair, sharp cheekbones, thin mouth. Hands folded over a cane capped with bone. Behind him stood 3 council elders. Behind them stood hunters. Not wolves from Blackridge. Not even regular council guards. Hunters. Their coats were dark. Their eyes moved too little. Their attention found me and stayed there. My stomach tightened. Ronan noticed. Of course he noticed. Breathe, he said quietly. I am. Deeper. You breathe deeper. Darius whispered, Marriage counseling is going to be wild. Ronan's mouth twitched. Barely. Harrow struck his cane once against the floor. The sound cut through the room. This hearing is now in session. Asha Bennett, step forward. Ronan moved with me. Harrow's gaze sharpened. Alone? No, Ronan said. I touched his arm before that one word turned into a body count. Then I stepped forward by myself. The hall shifted behind me. Wolves smelled fear. I knew that now. So I let them smell everything else too. Anger, grief, stubbornness. The fact that my feet were planted, and I was not moving unless I chose to. Harrow studied me. You understand why you are here? I have a strong guess. A few wolves murmured. Harrow's eyes cooled. You were brought into Blackridge under a financial arrangement. There it was. Right out of the gate. Darius muttered, Oh, we're starting to get nasty. Harrow ignored him. You accepted money from Maeve Blackwood in exchange for your presence in this house. For your proximity to Alpha Blackwood. For access. Ronan's growl rolled low. I did not look back. Yes, I said. The hall went still. Harrow leaned forward. So you admit you were bought. The word hit the room ugly. Bought. Like I had not sat in hospital waiting rooms calculating which bill could be late without killing my brother. Like I had not worked nights at Velvet Hour until my feet ached and my smile felt stapled on. Like desperation was something clean people could judge from clean rooms. I lifted my chin. I admit I was desperate, I said. I admit my brother needed surgery. I admit our parents were dead, the insurance was trash, and every option I had came with teeth. Maeve Blackwood offered money. I took it because Malik Bennett is alive, and I would make that choice again. Mrs. Vale made a soft sound behind me. Harrow's expression did not change. You worked at a club called Velvet Hour. Yes. Taking money from strangers? Yes. To pay debts. To pay doctors, I corrected. There is a difference. His mouth tightened. You see no shame in that? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was tired. No, I said. And that seems to disappoint you. A ripple moved through the pack. I felt Ronan behind me, every inch of him straining to step in. I turned my head slightly. Don't. His gold eyes met mine. The alpha of Blackridge, feared by everyone in this room, sat back because I asked him to. That ripple became something else. Respect had a sound, quiet but real. I faced Harrow again. You want me ashamed because ashamed people get quiet. I'm not quiet. I was not greedy. I was not plotting. I did not come here to steal secrets or betray your pack. I came because a rich woman put a price tag on the only thing I had left to sell. My time, my presence, my ability to endure people looking at me exactly how you're looking at me now. Maeve bowed her head. Harrow's fingers tightened around his cane. A moving performance. Darius laughed once. Careful, your heart almost participated. One of the hunters shifted. Silas shifted too. The hunter stopped. Harrow's gaze flicked to my brother. The human male will remain silent. Darius smiled. The human male declines. Darius, I said. He held up both hands, but his eyes stayed sharp. Harrow returned to me. Regardless of your personal hardships, you now possess knowledge of our world. That knowledge is a threat. Standard law allows memory shielding for human witnesses. The words crawled over my skin. Memory shielding. Erasure dressed up in court clothes. Ronan stood. No. Harrow looked pleased. Alpha Blackwood, your emotional reaction proves the council's concern. I turned before Ronan could speak. Sit down. The whole hall froze. Ronan stared at me. I raised an eyebrow. Slowly, violently he sat. Darius whispered, That was the sexiest thing I've ever seen, and I hate that I witnessed it. Theo choked. I faced Harrow. You keep saying memory shielding like it's medicine, like it's harmless. It is humane. Is that what you called it when you did it to Evelyn Blackwood? The room did not go quiet. It emptied. Every breath, every whisper, every scrape of movement, gone. Harrow's eyes went flat. Ronan stood again, but this time I did not stop him. Maeve rose from her chair with one hand pressed to her chest. Harrow said, You are speaking about matters beyond your understanding. I'm speaking about a document with your signature on it. The pack erupted. Not loud enough to become chaos, but close. Wolves turned to one another. Mrs. Vale whispered Evelyn's name like a prayer she had not allowed herself in years. Theo stared at Ronan, stunned. Ronan's voice cut through the rising noise. Answer her. Harrow stood. He was not tall, but authority can make small men cast long shadows. This hearing concerns Asha Bennett, he said. Not old tragedies twisted by a human woman seeking leverage. There it was again. Human. Woman. Like either word made me less dangerous. I stepped closer to the council platform. You tried to shame me for surviving. You tried to call my memories a threat. Now we find out Ronan's mother may have been taken, shielded, and erased under council authority. And you expect everyone to look away because I'm the one saying it? Harrow's face hardened. Enough! No, I said. That's the problem with all of you. You think enough happens when you say it does. Ronan moved to my side then. Not ahead. Beside. His voice was calm, which scared me more than rage would have. This council will provide all records pertaining to Evelyn Blackwood. Harrow smiled faintly. You are in no position to demand anything. I am Alpha of Blackridge. You are compromised. The words landed like a blade on the table. One of the other elders stood. By council review, Alpha Ronan Blackwood's judgment regarding human witness, Asha Bennett, is deemed emotionally compromised pending investigation. Pack members growled. My heartbeat kicked hard. Ronan did not move. Harrow lifted his cane. Therefore, custody of the witness transfers to council authority. Darius stepped forward. Absolutely not. Silas caught his arm. Not yet. Not yet, Darius snapped. That is not comforting, paperclip assassin. The hunters at the back of the hall straightened. Ronan's eyes burned bright gold. No one touches her, he said. The floor seemed to answer him. Every Blackridge wolf in the hall felt it. So did I. Power moved through the room, old and wild, raising the hair along my arms. But Harrow only smiled wider. You see, he said to the elders, he cannot separate law from attachment. I reached into my pocket and closed my hand around the whistle. Not because I was ready to use it. Because I wanted to remember I had been given a way to call for help. Not permission. Help. There was a difference. Harrow turned toward the hunters. Secure Miss Bennett. Ronan stepped in front of me this time, instinct finally winning. And this time, I let him. Not because I planned to hide. Because the hunters had started moving. Pack had started growling, and the trial of Asha Bennett had stopped pretending it was about justice.
The first hunter took one step toward Asha, and there were 5 ways to kill him before his boot finished touching the floor. My wolf chose all 5. I did not move. That restraint cost me more than any wound ever had. Asha stood behind my shoulder, close enough that I felt the heat of her, not close enough that I could pretend she belonged behind me. She had let me step in front of her because the room had turned dangerous, not because she had surrendered herself to my keeping. There was a difference. I was trying to become the kind of man who remembered that difference even with hunters reaching for her. Elder Harrow smiled from the council platform. He wanted rage. He wanted teeth. He wanted Blackridge to become the monster in the room so the council could call its leash justice. Secure Miss Bennett, Harrow repeated. The hunter's hand lifted. I caught his wrist. Bone cracked beneath my fingers. The hunter swallowed a sound. I leaned close. No. The great hall erupted. Council guards surged from the side doors. Blackridge wolves answered at once, a wall of bodies and growls moving between outsiders and pack. Chairs overturned. Mrs. Vale was pulled back by Maeve. Theo tried to shove forward and Silas caught him by the collar. Darius yelled, "Absolutely not, Lord Bite-A-Lot has entered murder mode." I did not know which of us he meant. Possibly all of us. Harrow struck his cane against the platform. Alpha Blackwood refuses lawful transfer. No, I said, releasing the hunter's broken wrist and shoving him back. Alpha Blackwood refuses theft. One of the hunters dropped something. A glass sphere struck the stone floor and shattered. Smoke burst upward. Not ordinary smoke. My senses recoiled. The hall vanished beneath a sharp chemical fog that scraped scent from the air. Wolves depended on smell more than sight. Harrow knew that. His hunters knew that. This had never been a hearing. It had been bait. "Silas," I snapped. He was already moving. Asha's hand closed briefly around my sleeve. Her voice reached me through the smoke. "Don't do something stupid." "I never—" "You do." Darius coughed. "Frequently, Wolf Batman." A silver blade flashed through the fog. I caught the arm behind it and drove the hunter into the floor hard enough to crack stone. "Inner ward," I ordered Silas. "Now." I'm not hiding, Asha said. I turned toward her shape in the smoke. No, you are surviving. For 1 second she looked like she might argue. Then another hunter lunged through the fog, and Asha made the wiser choice. She ran with Silas, Darius, and Theo toward the east corridor. Every instinct in me tried to follow. Instead, I stayed. Because Harrow had not moved. Because 3 council elders were watching. Because if I abandoned the hall and slaughtered every hunter in sight, Harrow would write the story before Asha took her next breath. Blackridge, I commanded. Alive if possible, dead only if necessary. A growl rolled through the pack, but they obeyed. That was the difference between a pack and a mob. I fought through the smoke with one eye on Harrow and the other on every exit. Hunters had come prepared for wolves, silver wire, scent-killing fog, blades treated with something that burned deeper than the metal itself. One cut my shoulder. I broke his ribs. Another tried to reach Mrs. Vale. Maeve stepped in front of her with a fireplace poker and hit him in the throat before I reached them. I would have admired it if my attention had not split at the sound that came next. A whistle. High. Sharp. Violent. It tore through the great hall like a blade dragged over bone. Asha. My wolf surged so hard my vision burned gold. Harrow's smile disappeared. He had not expected the whistle. Good. I moved. 2 hunters tried to block the east corridor. They failed. The first went through the wall. The second I left breathing because I had given an order, and Asha had once told me that growth required practice. I hated growth. The east corridor opened toward the service court, just outside the oldest protected part of the estate. The inner ward stood beyond an iron arch 30 feet away. They had not reached it. Darius was in the courtyard with a brass wall sconce in both hands. He had torn it directly from the stone. There was a hunter on the ground in front of him, clutching his face. Darius swung at another man's knee and shouted, "Bennett family rule, fight ugly." Theo crouched near the fountain, half-shifted, fangs bared, blood running down one arm. He was young, too young for council-trained killers, but he put himself between Asha and 3 hunters anyway. Asha stood with her back to the fountain, the whistle still in her hand. Her curls had come loose around her face. Her eyes found mine across the courtyard. Not fear. Fury. One hunter grabbed her. She drove her heel into his instep, her elbow into his throat, and when he doubled, she hit him with the whistle hard enough that I heard teeth crack. Darius saw me and pointed with the sconce. "Stop admiring her and help." I crossed the courtyard in 3 strides. A hidden bolt fired from the archway. Silver wire snapped open around my chest and arm. Pain burned white-hot through my skin. I tore through it. The seconds cost me. Asha broke free from one hunter and ran toward me. For one breath, she was almost close enough to touch. Then a second man appeared where there had been no scent at all. No warning. No heartbeat I had noticed beneath the chemical fog. He caught her around the waist and clamped a cloth over her mouth. She fought like hell. Her nails raked his hand. Her boot struck his shin. Her eyes never left mine. I lunged. Another glass sphere shattered at my feet. Fire roared up. Not high, not enough to kill me, but enough to force heat and smoke between us. Theo leapt for the man carrying Asha. A silver baton struck him across the ribs. Darius attacked anyway because apparently Bennett's survival instincts came with no respect for mortality. He slammed the sconce into the hunter's back and got thrown into the fountain for his trouble. Asha's hand reached for me through the smoke. Then she was dragged through the side gate, into a black council vehicle. Gone. The engine screamed down the service road. Every part of me went after it. I made 10 steps before I saw Theo on the stones, trying and failing to stand. Darius was on one knee, blood at his temple, coughing water and rage. The service road split into 3 forest routes beyond the gate. No scent, no trail, only chemical ruin in the air. A blind chase would give Harrow exactly what he wanted, a mad alpha off territory, isolated and easy to condemn. Darius grabbed the torn edge of my coat. His grip was weak. His eyes were not. "Don't you dare go stupid," he rasped. "She needs the scary one with a plan." I looked down at him. He swallowed hard. Not the scary one getting lost in the trees. I hated that he was right. I hated that Asha would have said the same thing. So I stayed. Not still. Strategic. "Lock the borders," I ordered. "All roads, all airstrips. No council vehicle leaves Blackridge land unchecked." Silas appeared through the smoke, blood on his collar, murder in his eyes. "They used masking agent," he said. "I know." I crouched near the gate. A smear of dark residue clung to the iron latch. I touched it with 2 fingers and brought it close. Bitter herb. Burned metal. Rot beneath sweetness. My blood went cold. Silas smelled it too. His expression changed. "High Creek," he said. "The rogue." The same scent-killing compound used by the rogue who had crossed our border months ago. The rogue Harrow insisted had acted alone. The rogue the council used as proof Blackridge could not police its own lands. I turned toward the courtyard. One of the hunters was still alive. I went to him, tore open his coat, and found the vial tucked inside the inner lining. Council glass. Council seal. Harrow's private mark etched beneath the stopper. The remaining elders had followed us out of the hall. They saw it. Good. "Your law took her," I said, holding up the vial. "Your hunters used the same agent as the rogue you blamed on my pack." One elder stared at the seal. "That is not possible." Darius coughed behind me. "Buddy, I am human and concussed, and even I know that's a lie." Silas looked toward the forest. "Harrow is gone." Of course he was. With Asha. My hands wanted to close around the world and break it until she fell back into them. Instead, I stood. "Get Theo to the healer. Keep Darius with guards he approves." Darius lifted one shaking hand. "I approve snacks and violence." "Done," I said. He blinked. "Did we just bond?" "No." "Buffering?" "Do not start." For the first time he almost smiled. Then his face twisted with pain and the humor vanished from me. I looked toward the road where they had taken Asha. She was not bought. She would not be erased. And I would not rescue her by becoming the cage she had escaped once already. I would find her with proof in my hand and war at my back. "Harrow wanted a beast," I said. Silas stepped beside me. "What will you give him?" I looked at the broken gate. An alpha.
I woke to the taste of metal and mint. For one ridiculous second, I thought Ronan had finally gone too far with his emergency snack collection and shoved a peppermint in my mouth during a kidnapping. Then my head throbbed, my wrists burned, and I remembered the hunter's arm around my waist, the cloth over my mouth. Ronan's eyes threw smoke. I opened mine. I was in a chair inside a room too clean to be comforting. Cream walls, no windows. One table, 2 lamps. A door with silver symbols carved into the frame. Council holding house. Because of course evil bureaucracy had guest rooms. My wrists were strapped to the chair arms with leather threaded in silver. Not enough to poison me since I was human, but enough to remind any wolf who came near that the council liked its threats decorated. The door opened. Elder Harrow stepped inside with 2 guards behind him. He looked exactly as he had in the Great Hall. Not a hair out of place, not a wrinkle earned. Some people could survive chaos, and still look pressed. I hated that in a villain. "You are awake," he said. "I was hoping this was a terrible spa." His mouth tightened. "Humor will not help you." "It helps me. That is unfortunate." "No," I said, pulling once against the straps. "Unfortunate is kidnapping a woman in front of an entire pack and thinking you're still the reasonable one." Harrow crossed the room and sat across from me. Slowly, carefully, like we were about to discuss estate planning instead of felony-level nonsense. "You are in danger, Miss Bennett." I stared at him. He continued anyway. "Alpha Blackwood cannot protect you. His attachment has compromised his authority. Blackridge will splinter. Your human family will be dragged into a war they cannot survive." My stomach twisted at the thought of Malik in a hospital bed, Darius bleeding in that courtyard, Theo on the stones. I kept my face steady. Harrow noticed. He was good at noticing wounds. "There is a humane solution," he said. "Memory shielding." My skin went cold. "No. You would remember your life, your brothers, Atlanta. You would forget Wolves, Blackridge, and Ronan Blackwood. No. You would be safe. I would be edited." His eyes sharpened. "You would be free." I laughed then, once, ugly and sharp. "You people love calling cages by prettier names." He leaned forward. "You were bought once, Miss Bennett. Do not pretend dignity has always guided your choices." The words hit. They did not knock me down. "That is where you keep making your mistake," I said quietly. "Maeve bought my time. Desperation rented my pride. But nobody bought me." Harrow's expression turned colder. I held his stare. "And nobody gets to erase me." For the first time, irritation broke through his polished calm. He lifted one hand. The side door opened and a woman entered carrying a silver bowl and a black case. She did not look at me. That made her worse. "No," I said. Harrow stood. "Consent is preferable, not required." I yanked against the straps hard enough to tear the skin at one wrist. Pain shot up my arm. The woman set the bowl down. Then the main door opened. Not slammed, not shattered. Opened. Ronan stood in the doorway. For one heartbeat, the entire room forgot how to breathe. He wore blood on his collar and fury in every line of his body, but he did not rush forward. Silas stood behind him. So did two council elders, both grim-faced, and behind them, leaning on the doorframe with a bandage at his temple, was Darius. My brother lifted 2 fingers. "Hey, kidnappee." Relief hit me so hard my eyes burned. "You look awful." "You should see the other guy. Actually, you can't. Lord Bidalot broke him." Ronan's gaze stayed on me, gold blazing, barely contained. Then he looked at the straps. His voice was deadly soft. "May I?" "Not I'm taking you. Not you're coming with me." "May I?" My chest hurts. "Yes." He crossed the room and broke the restraints with his hands. The silver burned him. I smelled it, saw the smoke curl from his fingers. He did not flinch. When I stood, my knees wobbled, but he only offered his hand. He let me decide whether to take it. I did. His fingers closed around mine like a vow he was afraid to speak too loudly. "What do you want?" he asked. Harrow scoffed. "This is absurd." Ronan did not look away from me. "Asha, do you want to leave now? Do you want me to carry you out? Do you want to stand here and speak?" My throat tightened. Every scared part of me wanted out. Wanted a locked door. Wanted Ronan's arms and Darius alive, and Malik on a video call complaining about hospital food. But Harrow was watching me, like my fear could still be useful. So I turned toward the elders. "I want them to hear me while I remember every damn thing." Ronan's hand flexed around mine once. Then he stepped beside me. Silas moved forward and placed a glass vial on the table. Masking agent recovered from Harrow's hunter. One elder picked it up. This carries a private council seal. And the same compound used by the High Creek rogue, Ronan said. The second elder's face hardened. Silas set down another paper. Transfer authorization for Evelyn Blackwood. Cognitive Veil approved. Signed by Elder Harrow. Harrow's jaw clenched. Fabrications. Darius snorted. That's villain for oops. I lifted my wounded wrist. He offered to shield me 5 minutes ago, called it humane, said my consent was preferable, not required. The woman with the bowl stared at the floor. Ronan looked at her. Confirm it. She swallowed. Elder Harrow ordered the procedure. Harrow turned on her. You forget yourself. No, I said. That's what you do to other people. The room went silent. One of the elders signaled the guards. For the first time since I had met him, Harrow looked uncertain. Do not be fools, he snapped. Blackwood is compromised. The human woman has infected this entire pack. Ronan's eyes burned bright. I touched his wrist. He breathed once, twice. Then he said with terrible seriousness, Elder Harrow, you will chill. I closed my eyes. Darius made a wounded sound. I'm concussed, and that still healed me. Silas looked like he wanted to resign from existence. The guards took Harrow by the arms. He did not fight. Men like him rarely did when someone else's body was no longer available as a shield. As they dragged him through the door, his gaze found mine. This is not over. I smiled without warmth. Good, I have more to say. Afterward, everything happened too quickly and too slowly. Statements, questions, council seals broken from doors. Ronan refusing to leave my side but never once pulling me anywhere. Darius demanding snacks from people who looked spiritually unprepared for him. Finally, Ronan asked, What do you need? A room with a door that locks from the inside, I said. And 10 minutes where nobody says memory shielding, council authority, or humane solution. Darius pointed at Ronan. You heard her again, Oregon Menace. I come back with 2 wall sconces. Ronan nodded solemnly. Understood. You're learning. Hate that. The room Ronan found was upstairs, small and warm, with rain ticking against the glass. The second the door closed, the silence wrapped around us. He stood several feet away, like my choice had become holy ground. You can touch me, I said. His face changed, not softened exactly. Ronan did not soften like other men. He cracked open. I almost lost you. But you didn't. I wanted to burn the holding house down. I know. I did not. I know that too. He came to me slowly. His hands hovered near my wrists until I nodded. Then he lifted them and kissed the marks the straps had left in my brown skin. My breath caught. I am sorry, he whispered. I'm tired of being sorry tonight. His eyes rose to mine. I stepped closer. I want to choose something that isn't fear. Asha. I choose you. That broke whatever restraint he had left. He kissed me like he had been dying quietly since the courtyard. I kissed him back harder, fists in his ruined shirt, pulling him close because close was not enough. His hands shook when they found my waist. Every touch asked. Every answer was mine. When he lifted me, I wrapped around him willingly. When he laid me on the bed, he waited until I pulled him down. Clothes gave way to heat, to skin, to the sound of his breath against my throat. There was nothing polished between us, nothing careful enough to be pretty. It was need. It was anger leaving the body. It was proof that I was still here, still whole, still the only person allowed to decide what happened to me. When we moved together, Ronan watched my face like my yes was the only law he trusted. And I gave it to him. Again. After he held me against his chest, his heartbeat still racing beneath my cheek. "Thank you for asking," I whispered. His arms tightened carefully. "Always." A knock sounded at the door. Darius's voice came through. "Sorry to interrupt whatever emotionally intense wolf nonsense is happening, but Silas found chocolate in Ronan's coat, and I require justice." Ronan sighed. I laughed into his chest. For the first time since they took me, it did not feel stolen. But beyond that door waited elders, evidence, a wounded pack, and a buried truth about Evelyn Blackwood that had only begun to claw its way back into the light. By the time Blackridge came into view, my wrists were wrapped in clean bandages. Darius had stolen 3 granola bars from Ronan's coat, and Ronan had threatened exactly 0 people for it. Growth looked strange on him. So did road trip snacks. Darius sat in the front passenger seat beside Silas, peeling open a chocolate bar with one hand, while the other pressed an ice pack to his temple. Why does Count Graulula have an entire gas station in his pockets? Ronan sat beside me in the back, his shoulder close but not touching, unless I leaned first. His burned hands were bandaged too. He had broken silver restraints like they were nothing, then let the healer wrap his fingers while staring at me like blinking might make me disappear. "You become irritable when unfed," Ronan said. I turned my head slowly. That is both offensive and romantic. I was told preparedness is romantic. By who? He hesitated. Silas cleared his throat from the driver's seat. I leaned forward. "Silas?" Silas stared at the road with the grim commitment of a man refusing accountability. "I said no such thing." Darius pointed the chocolate bar at him. "Wolf Secret Service lies under pressure. Noted." Ronan's mouth almost moved. Almost. But then the estate appeared beyond the trees, all dark stone and sharp roofs, against the morning sky, and the almost smile vanished. Blackridge looked different now. The first time I came here, it had felt like a rich woman's trap. A cold house full of secrets and old grief. A place where I had been paid to exist near a man who looked at me like I was a problem with a heartbeat. Now wolves lined the drive. Not hunters, not council guards. Blackridge. They stood on both sides of the road, silent as the SUV rolled through the open gate. Mrs. Vale was on the steps with both hands pressed to her mouth. Theo stood beside her with one arm in a sling, trying very hard to look like he had not been ordered to stay still. Maeve waited behind them, eyes red, shoulders drawn tight. My chest squeezed. Ronan's hand rested open on the seat between us. An invitation, not a claim. I put my hand in his. His breath changed barely, but I felt it. "If you want to go inside privately," he said, low enough that only I could hear, "we can." "No." I looked out at the pack. "I'm done being moved through the back doors." Something bright and aching crossed his face. "Then we walk through the front." Silas parked. When Ronan stepped out, the wolves straightened. When I stepped out after him, the silence deepened. That kind of attention should have made me shrink. It did not. My wrists hurt. My head still carried the echo of Harrow's voice, calling erasure humane. My brother had a bandage on his face because he had fought trained hunters with a stolen wall sconce. Theo had blood under one sleeve. Ronan had burns across his hands because he had asked before freeing me. I had survived too much to be small now. Mrs. Vale reached me first. "Oh, my girl," she whispered and folded me carefully into her arms. I let her. Theo was next, moving too fast. Darius snapped, "Gently, fetus wolf. She just got unkidnapped." Theo froze mid-step, then wrapped one arm around me like I was made of glass. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "I wasn't fast enough." My throat tightened. "You stood between me and the hunters." I fell. "You got up." His young face crumpled for 1 second before he hit it against my shoulder. Behind him, Maeve waited. That was the thing about apologies. Sometimes the person owed one had to decide whether she had enough energy to receive it. Maeve's voice shook. Asha. I looked at her. I cannot undo what I did, she said. I cannot make the bargain clean because I regret it. But I swear before this pack, no one will ever call you bought in my hearing again and stand afterward without answer from me. It was not forgiveness, but it was a beginning that did not ask me to pretend. I nodded once. Then we start with the truth and see what survives. Maeve bowed her head. Ronan moved to the bottom step, not above me, not ahead of me. Beside me. His voice carried without effort. Blackridge owes Asha Bennett a debt. The pack went still. She came here under a bargain she did not create, and a desperation none of us had the right to judge. She stood before the council and told the truth, when wolves in power tried to bury it. Harrow named her threat. I name her witness. His golden eyes moved over his people. She owes Blackridge nothing. My heart stumbled. Ronan turned to me. And if she stays, he said, it will not be because I command it. It will not be because old law requires it. It will be because Asha Bennett chooses. Darius made a rough sound. Mr. Tall Dark in therapy really said character development. Ronan glanced at him. I am choosing to chill. I covered my face. The entire front line of wolves looked like they had just watched their alpha get possessed by a motivational poster. Silas closed his eyes. Darius whispered, I have waited my whole life for this kind of chaos. Then Darius shoved his phone at me. Malik's face filled the screen. He was sitting up in his hospital bed, looking tired, irritated, and very much alive. A hospital blanket covered his lap, and there was a paper cup of ice chips in one hand. Finally, Malik said. Nobody tells the recovering patient anything. I had to threaten a nurse with emotional distress. I laughed, and it came out half-broken. You look good. I look expensive. His eyes moved past me. Where is he? Ronan stepped into frame. Malik studied him. Damn, Darius wasn't exaggerating. You do look like a haunted statue with credit. Darius slapped the hood of the SUV. Validation. Ronan inclined his head solemnly. Malik Bennett. Ronan Blackwood. Malik's expression sharpened. My sister chooses her own life. If she chooses you, I won't stand in front of her. My eyes burned. But, Malik continued, Bennett men are experts at holding grudges. We moisturize, hydrate, and remember. For one stunned second, Ronan stared at the screen. Then he laughed. Not a small breath. Not that almost smile he tried to hide. A real laugh. Open. Warm. Completely unguarded. The sound moved through the pack like sunlight breaking into a locked room. Mrs. Vale started crying again. Theo looked like he had just seen a miracle. Silas glanced toward the forest, like he needed a private moment with a tree. I stared at Ronan because I had never heard that sound from him in front of anyone. He looked almost embarrassed by it. I loved him so much it scared me. Darius lowered the phone and pointed at Ronan. Fine. Provisional approval. 90-day probation. You hurt her, I become a problem with cardio. Understood, Ronan said. I hate how seriously you accept threats. I respect clarity. See? Annoying. Ronan turned back to me. The humor faded, but not the warmth. There is an old vow, he said. Older than council law, older than Blackridge stone. It is not a chain. It does not change your name or make you less yourself. It is spoken before the pack, only if both choose it. The wolves shifted, murmuring. My pulse kicked. What does it make me? I asked. His eyes held mine. My mate, if you want that word. Their Luna, if you want that place. My equal, whether they are comfortable learning it or not. Darius muttered, Okay, that was strong. I'm mad it was strong. Ronan did not look away from me. If you do not want it today, or ever, nothing between us is less true. That was when I knew. Not because he asked in front of everyone. Because he gave me a door out and meant it. I stepped closer. Say yours. Ronan took my hands carefully, mindful of the bandages. His voice lowered, rough with something sacred. Where my wolf stands, you may stand. Where my house shelters, you are sheltered. Where my name commands, your voice answers with equal weight. His thumbs brushed once over my knuckles. I will not cage you to keep you. I will not call fear protection. I choose you while you choose me. Asha Bennett. If a day comes when you choose another road, my oath will still guard your way. A sound moved through the pack. I swallowed hard. Then I gave him mine. I came here desperate, I said. I stand here unbought. I will not be your possession, your proof, or your cure. I have my own name, my own blood, and my own roads. My voice shook, but it held. I choose Blackridge because I choose you, Ronan Blackwood. I choose your wolf, your wounds, your dramatic coat full of snacks, and your terrible attempts at human slang. A laugh broke through the pack. Ronan's mouth curved. I squeezed his hands. I choose to stand as Luna, if Luna means beside you, not beneath. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Mrs. Vale placed her hand over her heart. Theo did the same. Maeve followed. One by one, the wolves of Blackridge bowed their heads. Not to Ronan. To me. Luna, they said. The word rolled over the stones, low and fierce and terrifying. Mine, if I wanted it. So I let it be mine. Later, after too many people touched my hands gently and Darius demanded someone bring ceremonial carbs, Ronan took me upstairs. His room was quiet. The door closed behind us with a soft click, and for the first time all day, nobody was looking at me. Ronan stood near the bed, suddenly still. Do you regret it? I stepped toward him. Ask me again after snacks. He reached into his coat and produced a small chocolate square. I stared. He looked serious. Preparedness. I took it. You are ridiculous. You chose me. Unfortunately for my peace, yes. His laugh was softer this time. I set the chocolate on the table and reached for the buttons of his shirt. I wanted the choice in my hands. I wanted to undress him, not because we were running from fear or proving I was alive after someone tried to erase me, but because the vow downstairs still trembled in my bones. Ronan caught my wrist gently. Your hands. They still work. Asha. I want this slow, I whispered, but I want it. His eyes darkened, and the air between us changed. Every piece of clothing we removed felt like another wall coming down. His bandaged hands skimmed over me with reverence, careful around every bruise. When his mouth touched the inside of my wrist, right over the marks the restraints had left in my brown skin, something inside me loosened. I was so angry, I said. I know. I was scared too. His forehead rested against mine. I know. I still chose. His breath broke. Yes. When he laid me back, he waited. Ronan Blackwood, alpha of Blackridge, terrifying wolf king with a jawline my brother had apparently written poetry about in insult form, waited for me like my body was a language he refused to misread. I reached for him. That was all the permission he needed. He came over me slowly, his weight controlled, his eyes never leaving mine. When he entered me, it was not rushed or taken. It was careful at first, a deep, steady pressure that stole the breath from my lungs. I felt the stretch of him, the heat, the overwhelming fullness of letting him close enough that there was no room left for fear between us. My fingers dug into his shoulders. He stopped immediately. Hurt? No. My voice shook. Don't stop. The look on his face nearly undid me. He lowered his brow to mine and pushed in another fraction, patient even while his whole body trembled. I felt him everywhere, not just where we were joined, but in my chest, my throat, the aching places Harrow had tried to make small. My body opened to him because I wanted him there, because I trusted him to listen, because every slow inch felt like an answer to the vow he had made. I gasped when he settled fully inside me. Ronan went still, breathing hard. Asha. I wrapped my legs around him. Move. He did. Slow. Then slower, because he knew how to destroy me when he was being gentle. Every movement pulled a sound from me I could not hide. His restraint was not cold now. It was devotion. He watched my face, my mouth, the arch of my body beneath his, and when I rose to meet him, his control cracked. Not into force. Into need. He kissed me like he was asking again and again, and I answered with my hands, my hips, my mouth against his throat. The rhythm deepened. Heat gathered low in me, bright and relentless, building until I could not tell if I was holding on to him or he was holding me together. Say my name, I whispered. His eyes flashed gold. Asha. Not Luna. Not mate. Me. The release broke through me in waves, fierce and shaking, and he held himself with me until my pleasure dragged his from him too. Ronan buried his face against my neck, with a sound so raw, it made my heart twist. For a while there was only breathing. Rain touched the windows. His heartbeat thundered beneath my hand. Eventually, he kissed my shoulder. There is also a private mark. I opened one eye. That sounds suspiciously wolf. It is not required. Do you want it? Yes. The honesty cost him. I felt it. But not more than I want you free. I touched his face. Then ask me. His throat worked. May I mark you, Asha? Not to own. To vow. I thought of Harrow's straps, Maeve's bargain, every person who had confused access with ownership. Then I thought of Ronan breaking silver with his hands and asking before he touched me. Yes, I said, and I get one too. His mouth curved. With your human teeth? Do not disrespect my bite. A laugh shook him. The brief sting of his mark at my shoulder was sharp, then warm, his mouth gentle immediately after. I pressed my teeth to the place where his neck met his shoulder, not deep enough to wound the way he could, but enough to make him shudder like I had branded his soul. Good. Fair was fair. I was curled against him, half asleep and entirely unwilling to move, when a knock came at the door. Darius's voice followed. If you two are naked, become less naked. If you're emotional, hydrate. Ronan sighed into my hair. I could throw him from the balcony. You love him? I do not. You're buffering. No. I smiled against his chest. Then Silas spoke from the hall, quiet and grim. Ronan. Asha. We found something in Harrow's sealed records. Ronan went still. I sat up, pulling the sheet with me. What? A pause. Then Silas said, Evelyn Blackwood was not listed as deceased. She was relocated under a shielded identity. Ronan's hand found mine beneath the sheet. Silas continued. The last confirmed trace leads to Georgia. The room changed around us. Ronan looked at me, all the warmth of the vow still there, now threaded with an old wound reopening. Georgia. My home. His mother. A ghost with a paper trail. I squeezed his hand. Outside the door, the future waited with teeth.
Take me to heaven. There's a light in your eyes I can't explain, like a fire running through my veins. Every time that you say my name, I'm never quite the same. I was drifting in a world so cold, afraid of letting my heart unfold. Then you came and you pulled me through. Now I'm lost in you. When you hold me, the walls come down. I forget every fear can finally breathe. You're all I need. Don't you let this moment slip away. Say the words that you're scared to say. If this love is a chance we take, don't let it break. Show me heaven tonight. Take me higher than I've ever been. Hold me close, don't let go. Let this feeling pull me in. If forever is real, then I'm ready to fall into you. Through the dark, through the light, all I need is you. So don't let go, don't say goodbye. You're the reason I can fly. If love is where we begin, take me to heaven.